Hi, this is Chrissy Incognito, and welcome to another episode of my show. Now, you might be wondering why I'm incognito. This is my alter ego that can say things that I cannot otherwise say unless I was incognito. So, thank you for returning. In order to understand more about this episode, view the previous episode. Happy listening.
I have conversations with him when sometimes when I leave the house in the morning and I have to drive a distance.
Yeah.
I know when I have conversations with him, and I know that, and I know when I've seen them last, how. So I'm putting all these pieces together.
Right.
And I'm coming up with he is not being patient with her.
Yeah.
He's yelling at her. She's at a disadvantage. This is kind of, if we report, let's just say, I'm not saying we're going to do this, but let's say we reported this, they would have to do I don't know how they would do it other than hiding a dictaphone in the room.
Yeah.
Again, there's
Yeah.
no way to prove any of this. I'm just going by my instinct and what he's told me and me knowing him.
Yeah.
Her instinct is her own instinct to be a predator, to be a offender, to aggress on somebody, to try to get them in a vulnerable position, because that's what she did to me when I was a kid. She had, she talks about my dad having nothing else to do, so there's nothing else to do, so I'll just be abusive to my wife that I was never abusive to. That's what she used to do to me. When there was nobody around and she had nothing else to do, she would go after me. Whether it was physically trying to get me or mentally abusing me, that's how she is. So she doesn't understand any other way.
I don't know. Could she break? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't get that feeling. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get that feeling. I get there's an impatientness because it's very frustrating dealing with somebody that you're talking to but really isn't there. But I don't get, other than frustration. I don't really see. You really think there's like abuse?
I think that him yelling at her in a certain tone and what he's saying to her, yes. Because let me tell you something, Chris.
Yeah.
I have heard conversations between them.
Yeah.
Back in the day when they thought the phone was hung up and it wasn't.
What do you mean when you thought the phone? What are you talking about?
When I would call them on the house phone.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Okay.
And they thought the phone was hung up and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And I was still on the line because they thought it hung up, and then they started talking.
Oh, I see.
And then I stayed on to listen.
Of course you did.
Because that's really the only way you know the truth about people is if you listen to them when they know you're not listening.
Right.
So you see how her mind is? Like, I'm deceptive, so everybody else is deceptive. And so I need to listen and catch them when they don't think. Now, I have done that too. Like, my parents have not, like, hung up the phone. There's nothing but, like, nothing going on. Oh, are you going to put that on the shopping list? Oh, we need to do that tomorrow. Okay, so let's see what she says or what she thinks is going on. Because right now, she's saying that she's listening, but there's nothing really that she's talking about.
And, no, I'm not saying that this happens often.
Right.
But I can tell you this, that his tone, if they were talking about something and she disagreed with him, somehow how his tone went,
Yeah.
it went in another direction. And again, Chris, you got to remember, he's still going to put on an act around you and I.
Okay, so listen to what she said. If they did not agree, his tone, not he was yelling, cursing, throwing things, making her like leave this place. Like, what she basically said was absolutely nothing. She had nothing. And let me tell you, if she had something to say, she would have said it. She would have said but she didn't have anything. She did not have anything to report because they would get feisty with each other. Like, there was never any kind of yelling or like hostileness, but it was like, well, we need to do that. Well, I don't know when we're going to get around to it, but we need to do it now. But if you listen to what she said, his tone changed. How does that amount to anything? But his tone changed. She could not even come up with anything. Because, again, there wasn't anything, but she needed to villainize them because she is the lunatic.
Yeah. Yeah,
You're not going to be is authentic in a certain way. Okay?
Yeah.
So I also know by what Josh tells me
Right.
that his anger level is heightened. He's really angry, Mom.
Okay, so let me tell you what he's angry about. So the elections, okay? This is what he's angry about. And so because my dad doesn't really have anybody to talk to this about because everybody's either dead or in a facility, and obviously he can't talk to my mother. He is very passionate about his political affiliation, okay? So when my nephew either comes to visit or talk, he now has an active ear that is kind of on the pulse of what's going on to talk about. And he does get aggravated and he does get loud and it is not pleasant. It's not that it's not unpleasant, but it's like, if that is not how you are and that's not how my nephew is and that's not how I am, like, whatever your political thing is, just God bless you. Like, keep it to yourself. I don't want to hear it, okay? So now my dad has my nephew's ear for a few days and my dad just goes on and on and on about the politicalness. I've had to say to my dad, like, at some point I have to say, I don't want to talk about this anymore, okay? Or I'll have to say, we're going to meet with Michele. I don't want to hear any of this because she's one political, he's another. Then they just can't just let bygones be bygones, okay? So what my sister is talking about, she's not being specific, but I know what happened. My nephew would come to my parents, and then at some point my dad would go off about political stuff. And he doesn't want to hear it. So he reported my dad as being angry. But my sister left out that it was politically driven, not family driven, not like everyday driven, okay?
Happening because, so this is the deal. Because that's really the only way you know the truth about people is if you listen to them when they know you're not listening.
Right.
And now I'm not saying that this happens often.
Right.
But I can tell you this, that his tone, if they were talking about something and she disagreed with him, somehow how his tone went,
Yeah.
it went in another direction. And again, Chris, you got to remember, he's still going to put on an act around you and I.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
no.
going to be.
So you see how she basically said nothing. His tone went in a different direction. Not like he was berating her and throwing her out of the room, because what she was saying was going nowhere. And then so she cut it in like, well, it's not going to be like that between you and I. He's not going to let that slip. She basically said nothing, that's what she always does.
Is authentic in a certain way. Okay?
Yeah.
So I also know by what Josh tells me
Right.
that his anger level is heightened. He's really angry, Mommy.
Yeah.
And I said, what gives you that? Tell me why you're coming to this conclusion. He said, because when he talks about something
Politics.
that he either doesn't agree with or that he's frustrated with, he says his whole face changes. And you gotta remember, right? He was never that way with Josh. Disciplining Josh and being that way is two different things.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Now, Josh is now a young adult. So now he's going to deal with Josh a lot more. There's not going to be such a guard up with Josh because they're talking about adult things, and then, he could slip out of character. And this last argument that they had was pretty... So another thing he told me, so this is how I know that my father isn't being... The level of his transparency and how he will manipulate so he said, he goes, well, when Josh was here, he's like, we had a little disagreement. No, you didn't have a little disagreement. That's not what happened.
Yeah.
Now, you're not talking to a stranger.
So yes, I believe. So what happened is that my dad was talking about politics, like I just said, and my nephew didn't really want to be in the drama because he doesn't care. And my dad got a little too passionate about it, involved into it. Like he was like, can you believe? And this is going on and blah, 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 blah. My nephew didn't want any part of it. And I think my dad wanted him to take a side. And of course he wanted to take my nephew to take my dad's side. And somehow it got more heated than it should have. And my nephew got more offended by it. Like, why are you arguing with me? And why is my dad being so unreasonable? So I do know that happened. And then my nephew went back and said, he was, my dad was doing, my dad, his grandfather, was doing all of this stuff and saying all of this stuff and blah, 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 blah. And then my dad said to my sister, well, we got into an argument. I think my dad tried to downplay it where my nephew was more upset, but that was the extent of it. Okay.
Sure. You're talking about Josh's mother and your daughter.
Yeah.
You should have said, sure, Josh probably told you by now.
Because he's such a blabbermouth.
He is blabbermouth.
Right. That him and I got into it. And it was heated. We made up, but it was heated. That was getting to the point, telling it how it was, without getting in and telling it like it was.
Yeah.
So basically my dad did downplay it. Whatever happened with my dad and my nephew, it happened. It evidently was an uncomfortable situation because, of course, it's talking about politics and all that other crap. And my nephew went home and told my sister the way it was, okay? Then when my sister got on the phone, my dad downplayed it, okay? And instead of just going on with life, my sister was like, no. You're not going to downplay it. You need to humble yourself. You need to take responsibility for your end of that conversation. So that's what my sister is talking about. We got into a heated argument, but it's over now. And my sister was like, no. You need to be wrong. You need to be like, I was wrong and I made it more than it should be. And I made it an uncomfortable situation between me and your son. But that wasn't enough for my sister. She was like, you need to say you are wrong. I am wrong. Just like all the other times when I told you you were wrong. I am wrong. That's where my sister's going with that stuff because all her life she felt like she was told she was wrong, which part of it, she was a kid and she was wrong. And then just part of it is her and she's insane and she's wrong. So the constant theme is my sister trying to make my parents wrong. Okay, in this case, my mom can't be involved, so it's my father that needs to be wrong. But this is a common theme with everything.
Right, yeah.
He made it sound like they had words.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big deal.
But it wasn't.
They recovered.
Yeah.
But they did.
So the hormone, he's still getting the hormone shots, right?
I believe so.
Okay, well,
So that's another thing. So basically what happened is they did have words. And they did speak. And they did recover. Because when they left that visit, it was like it happened, it was done. My nephew went home and told my sister what happened. All of it. Whatever happened. It really wasn't that big of a deal, but my sister made more of it. What do you mean he did that? What do you mean he said that? You mean he didn't apologize? I don't know. My sister, my nephew went home, told it exactly what it was. My dad, when he talked to my sister, downplayed it. But basically, it happened. They had words, and it was done. But my sister says, no. You didn't suffer enough. You didn't bend enough. You didn't admit enough. But that's basically what happened. And my nephew said that's what happened.
it's making him irritated.
Well, yeah,
Oh.
I'm sure. Look.
I'm sorry. So my dad had prostate issues. So as a result, he has to get continuous hormone shots. Okay. Again, like I said previous, my dad tried to make things more worse than they really are because he's expecting sympathy out of my sister, and I kept telling him there is none. Whatever you say, whether it's mommy or the prostate issue, it is not resounding with her. She does not care. She is not allowing for that. So my father keeps saying, well, I've got these shots and they're making me irritable and I'm not the same. And my sister is like, absolutely not. You're going to bow and kneel before me. And admit you're wrong.
Hello, that's what it does to us.
Right. So that right there is causing him to be twice as impatient.
Yeah.
So what he's doing now is he's using that as an excuse.
He's definitely using that as an excuse, but for my sister to stop the shit. Like, I'm going through this. I'm going through that. This is all a lot for me. Blah, blah, blah. And my dad and I talked about it. And I was like, I know what you're trying to do, Dad, but it's not doing it. It's actually backfiring on you. She's not being a normal human being. If she was a normal human being, we wouldn't be in this position with her. I said all the stuff that you're saying to her that you want her to stop the shit. Like, I'm going through, like, my dad feels like if I say I'm going through this and I'm going through that my sister's going to stop the shit. I said it's actually making her more angry. And I said that to my dad, but he's still continuing with it. So
in other words, when he said to me, well, your mother sensed I am a little bit more intolerant, and it's due to the shots. Right away, it's because of that.
Yeah.
So I see him then, yes, I did act like that, but it's because of this. Now, I'm not saying that it's not.
Right, that's not a factor. Yeah, no, I hear you.
But let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
If he said to me, you know how impatient I can be. Like, sometimes it's really hard for me to manage my patience. And then with the shot on top of it, sometimes it's just not a good mixture.
yeah. So she wants him to humble himself. Not just say, I'm having a problem. Not just say, I'm more aggravated than I normally am. No. She wants to be an equal. She wants him to be like, I can't manage this. Can you come in and do that? Because he's already admitting, this is the thing. He's already admitting he's frustrated. He's already admitting that the prostate issue and the hormone shots are getting to him. He is already admitting that. He is not saying, oh, no, I'm completely fine. No, there's no issue. But it's not enough for my sister. She needs him groveling, and he's not, so that's pissing her off.
Yeah, no, I understand, yeah.
But saying, well, I get more irritated, but it's that shot that, stop being a victim.
Yeah.
Stop playing a victim. So, I don't know what to do. I mean, I don't know what to do. I need to tell you this because I have
because you're making shit up.
With him.
Yeah.
Also had recent words with Josh. Josh was also there for 4 days.
Yes.
Okay? And Josh was like, that seemed like 4 months, Ma.
It seemed like a long amount of time.
Why did it seem like 4 months? And he said, because he has nothing going on. And all it seems like he wants to do is argue and fight.
So, yes, and that's that side of the family. Absolutely. This is why I said my dad, my sister, my aunt, that side of the family is very argumentative. But this is what happened. Yes, my dad has nothing going on. And when my nephew stayed with him, my dad talked about was politics. Which he does that with me, and I'm like, stop. Nobody wants to hear that. After a while, I listen, and then I'm like, can we talk about something more? So that is what they talked about. That is what they fought about. It wasn't this cantankerous, whatever. It was not. It wasn't as crazy as my sister was making it out to be. Yes, my nephew thought it was forever because he's a kid and he's going to think any length of time away from his home is forever. And then you have a grandparent talking about politics and my nephew doesn't want to talk about politics. And so, yes. But it's not the way, if you notice, my sister's not really saying anything. She's not saying he was this, he was that, he did this, he did that. She's just skirting the issue because that's all there is.
Disagree and be confrontational, and he goes, that's the impression that I was getting. He goes, and I've seen this for a while because I guess whatever little interaction they do have,
it was limited, yeah.
And